Shalom. My topic is Kenites, the seed of Satan. I am going to explain step by step, as close as I can, to get you to understand who the seed of Satan is. In the Smith's Bible Dictionary, the Kenites inhabited the rocky and desert region between southern Palestine and the mountains of Sinai, east of the Gulf of Akabah. Now, in Genesis, the third chapter, before I get into that, I want to say this. Part of the problem on why so many Christians or people who of interest, doesn't know the truth about the true seed of Satan is because there's a misunderstanding as to what happened in the Garden of Adam and Eve, and it wasn't eating a fruit off a tree. If that was the problem, if eating a fruit off the tree, the wrong fruit, off a tree, and you get caught by your God, instead of covering your private part, wouldn't you cover your mouth? Because you ate off the tree that God told you not to eat off. Just keep that in mind. I'm going to get into Genesis 3:3. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Now, in the Strong's Concordance, look it up, touch means to lie with a woman. To lie with a woman. Intercourse. So that touch, God is telling them not to have intercourse or have anything to do with that tree in the midst of the garden, which was Satan. He wasn't a snake. It was Satan himself. The tree of God, the tree of Christ was also in that same garden. Satan is the tree of good and evil, and Christ was also, which is the deliverer, was in that same tree. The tree of life was in that same garden. So he was not talking about literally a snake. It was a man, Satan. Okay. Now Genesis 3:15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and the woman's seed. This is to show it all started right here in that garden. The children of God versus, which is the 12 tribes, versus the children of Satan, the Kenites. Because Satan has his own biological seed of people right here on this earth. And many people thinking, well, that some people have other DNA things in their DNA that is unusual or that no other people have. Put two and two together. Of course, Satan DNA would be different from a person, a natural person's DNA. Now, Cain and Abel was twins. They both brought their sacrifices to God at the same time. They were twins. Now, the serpent in the garden seduced Eve, which was Satan, and Cain is the biological son of Satan, because Eve had intercourse with Satan. Yes, that is what truly happened in that garden. Just as the fallen angels in Genesis, the 6th chapter, came down against God's will and married women and had children with them. So an angel can also look just like us. They could transform themselves to look just like us. And that's what they did. And that is why Noah and the flood occurred. Now, Genesis 4:2, it says, she again, after Eve had her child, Cain, it says, again, she bore his brother Abel. Now, again, in the Strong's Concordance, mean to continue in labor. So she continued in labor after she had Cain and she had Abel. Now, well, she continued, yes, in birth, and she had Abel. But I want to kind of respond on this point a moment. It is possible for a woman to have twins with two separate fathers. If you talk to any doctor, it is possible, and it still happens on a very small note, but it happens. Now Eve, first child Cain, offspring of Satan, and Abel, offspring of Adam, okay, I said already, you talk to a doctor about it and see that is highly possible. Okay. Now we know that Adam was a partaker of this fruit also. And I can't find any evidence of one or the other, but I don't know if Satan transformed into a female or if this was the first homosexual act. It leaves the imagination open. Now, the Jews became lazy and they didn't want to do their liturgical duties. So they had their servants, which was Kenites, to come in and do the liturgical duties of the synagogue for them. As time passed by years, the Kenites started taking on as Jews. They was being portrayed as Jews. People saw them as Jews because they were dressed like Jews. They performed the synagogue duties as Jews. So as time go by, they were known as Jews. They become to be known as Jews. Until some of the priests, it comes to their attention and they come and clean the temple. Now, in First Chronicle, the 2nd chapter and the 55th verse. And the families of the scribes, which dwelt at Jabez, the Triatites, the Shemizites, the Sejusites, these are the Kenites that came of Hamath, the father of the house of Rechab. Okay, so these are names of the Kenites and of different Kenites. So you could look this up and you could trace them. You could trace their action as to where they ended up at. Now, in Ezra, the 2nd chapter, 59th verse, and these were they which went up from Tel-Melah and Tel-Harsah and Shereth, Adon, and Emma. but they could not show their father's house and their seed whether they were Israel. So now they could not prove who they were. These Kenites had no identity or identification to prove that they were Israelites. And in Ezra 2:62, these sought their register among those that were reckoned by genealogy, but they were not found. Therefore, they were polluted and were put out of the priesthood. So from time to time, they would clean the temple because this happened more than once. Kenites always looked for a way in to be identified as Israelites. They always endrafted themselves in, injected themselves in among the priesthood of the Jews, and they always tried to take on being Jews, take the positions as Jews. All down history, from time to time, the priests had to clean out the synagogue, the priesthood. Ahiah is pleased with two kinds of churches when he returned. That is Smyrna and Philadelphia. Because those are the only two churches, the only two kinds of churches that know who the Kenites are. And if you don't know who the Kenites are, you are falling for their God, and you worshiping their God right now if you're a Christian, and you don't realize you are worshiping this God. You're worshiping the God of the Kenites, because those are the seed of Satan, and those are the ones that actually run in the world. Now, in Revelation 2:9, I know thy works and tribulations and poverty, but thou art rich. So he's telling this good church, Smyrna in Philadelphia. Well, Smyrna, I think it is, he's talking to now. And he said, I know your work and your poverty, but you are rich. And that's the way I feel. And I always felt that way. I felt rich, and I never was rich. Never. I grew up poor, but I always felt rich because what is inside me is rich. The power of a higher. Now, he said, I'm going to finish this. But thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. And it's also in Revelation 3:9. There are other scriptures that supports the truth. Jeremiah, the 35th chapter, read the whole chapter. Acts 13, verse 6, 8, 10, 42, 45 to 52, and Acts 14, verse 1 to 4. Now, study this for yourself. Learn the truth before it's too late. The Kenites kept creeping into the priesthood of the Jews throughout history, and only this time is their last time, because now the true Yeshua is soon to come, and all of this will be over. So I'll tell you, search and seek. And in the scripture, when they were speaking about when God said he's going to put enmity between the woman's seed and between Satan's seed, he meant that The woman's seed was the seed of her husband Adam, and Satan's seed is the seed of Satan, of the Kenite. Cain. Cain had Satan's seed. Cain carries the DNA on this earth of Satan. So I want you all to wake up, the 12 tribes of Israel, as well as the Christians, as well as the Gentiles. Wake up and learn who your true Father is. Learn what thus saith Ahia. Shalom.